Hi guys, here's the update to C64 Dev machine. There's been a lot of changes in the last few days, a lot of bugs that I've been trying to nail with the nodes, and basically just making it a bit easier to manage with loads of nodes as well. I've started to give things funny suffixes for new builds as well because it's hard for me to keep track of all the things I've been changing, and I often find that I'm working on too many things at once as well. So here's the update. This fix stands for text scroll JSR backwards compatible, right? It's basically now to make the text scroll. It is an option, so the old version still will work. That's the backwards compatible thing. But the text scroller, you can enable a JSR call to it so that you can make it advance. You call it every game loop. And I needed that in place because it was fighting with the joystick input. They both used something like the same IRQ or the same 0 page address. Either way I fixed it, and that was the way I had to fix it. So I'm going to do that moving forwards, is do these little JSR calls and things like that. So let me just show you exactly where it's all at. Now, you know, the viewport is sort of friendly. When you zoom out, you start to see the comments in a bigger macro scale, as well as your, you know, using your drag boxes to move things around. You see that certain things are omitted as well from view because they are quite performance hungry. So for example, if you hold down shift now, you see the addresses. They were way too busy to be there all the time. So they're just like for checking, like, okay, I want to see what cycles I'm at, how many bytes is this, what's my addresses here. There's a small bug where this end address isn't correct. It's correct here, but with the V-weight, if you add V-weight in, it miscalculates this end address, at least I think it does. It won't be... maybe it's fine now, maybe it was just something I saw earlier, but maybe I fixed it. Ignore that. But anyway, this all works, so I'm just going to run this. This is a very old the scroller test, which should work in the demo version, I think. So you see this all works, which is great. And so what I changed with this is you can do a JSR call and you set the alias. This is just a kind of the name that it uses internally, but you can set up a new alias, so control backspace and call it scroll 1 or whatever, right? And then that will call it scroll underscore scroll. That's how it will detect it. And then in your loop here, you would J and then J again and change this to your scroll 1, and that's essentially going to call it. Now the problem now is it's going to call it faster than the raster time, so it's going to go really fast and call all the instructions fast as well. So you just need a V-weight in there, which you will likely have anyway in your routine. Did I just... oh, I just moved that. I thought I dragged it in. Oh, there's there. There's a little bit of a bug where things don't snap quite the same way now. I noticed that if I'm here, that opens up. It drops it below it. I expect it to drop above it like that. It's a little bit buggy. I've moved some numbers about. Anyway, that goes there, right? So the whole reason for that JSR was so that the joystick would get a chance to call. So this works fine. Right, that all works fine, exactly the same. Right, that's with the JSR call. Now if I don't have that, it will just sit and do nothing, right? It uses the joystick, the SID IRQ. You can't actually change that. See, it's not calling it. You can't actually turn this off. It's just basically saying it's detected a SID IRQ. There's no checkbox to it, but this one is. So I'm going to just say that it's using SID IRQ. It's a bit confusing that because you think you can click it. You can change the NOP delay if you want to refine something. 8 for this one seems to work. I've defaulted it at 0 because it's better at 0 than it was at 64 or whatever the default was. So I'll put that back there. This is where you can do all your sort of main calls, but the main test I was trying to do was the joystick one, which is here, music tracks and effects. Okay, I think it's this one. Yep. So the problem I had with this, this all works now. This is the SID music, which you press right, it will choose a track. You might not be able to hear that. Hold on to me a minute to sort this out. Right, pause you, and then I put that up. Right, it's just a silly little Vice Go tracker track that I made. Right, so that's playing there. Little 3-channel test. It's just a loop, and then my sound effects data gets loaded in here. I don't know how crazy this might get when you've loaded loads of sound effects in. It might need fixed up, or I need to make it scroll. I've not tested it in a big way. So there's a couple of sound effects here. This is what's going to fire in which voice it's going to fire in. It works in all voices. And if you see, I'll go back to here and I press fire. I get my flash, alright. So that all works there. I'm going to make it flash different colour because I remember that being a bit off-putting. Right, so change right to change track to 1 and left to change track to 2. So macro track now works as well. That changes the music track, which these are events that you could fire off when something happens in the game and you want to change the track. So it's quite dynamic then. And same if you want to change, if you want to fire a sound effect, you just literally choose which asset, and then you choose which sound effect and which voice you want it to play in. And what I'm going to do with this is have it either variable controlled, so you can sort of assign a variable to it and it will use that, or have it fixed like this, or have it alternating all the time, so always go 1 2 3 1 2 3, whatever sound effect comes next, it will always try and play the next voice. So basically that's good if you've only got sound effects and they would overlap each other. Then you've got like voice 1, then voice 2, then voice 3, then voice 1. That way they don't cut each other off. So these are features that I think would be great, and it's not like when you compile this that every feature is crammed in there for the sake of it. It will optimize based on what you've chose. It will always optimize. So for example, if you press shift and you change something like this, if you start adding things, that changes dynamically based on the features that you want. Everything's optimized like that. It's not just going to be over the top. I'm trying to make sure everything is really trim and lean as I go. Like I'll go back and I'll visit things like that could be more refined, that could be better, I don't need that instruction, this routine will work there, and so on, and I'll try and get it to work. But it really depends what you make as well. But still, you know, you're going to have all this memory available, and you can even unlock these things. If you choose to unlock something, it will add a node in for you. This is the instructions needed to unlock basic ROM, and you've got access to all that data there. I mean, even if you didn't need the kernel up here as well, I think we need it for some things that we're using here, so I'll just leave that one. But that should still work. Let me see, I'm going to get a crash or something. Right. So that all works. So you can do that. Now what I want to do is, what led me to here with the text scroller, which is text scroll, was that stopped working, right? Or it stopped the joystick from working. That's what I was getting at. So what you do is you put this in after your SID exit needs that. The SID needs the exit point, and then you put your scroller in, and because we've got the joystick, we need to use the JSR mode, and we set the alias, and let's call it scroller. And the full screen scroller works like this already. This one, this already has a JSR to call called scroller. that's what you just call to scroll that. You'll only really have one of those. I need to retest that as well. I've just been testing this one, but everything worked before, so it should still be fine. I just need to do all these edge cases. What if they want this? What if they want the joystick? What if they want a SID? What if they want to play sound effects and have a scroller and all the other things? You can imagine, for me, I can't really fathom every single possible scenario. That's when you're making the game, it's very specific to you. The problems are very specifically your problems, and you need to get the order right. All I'm doing is just making the tools to make it easier. I'm not trying to make it an accessible thing for everyone. You still need to kind of know what you're doing with programming. This isn't for the faint-hearted at all. This is just streamlining a process to make it easier for you guys to make something. And whether you're coming from a text-based IDE to this, which I doubt, once you've kind of set yourself in your ways with that, you might not want to touch this. That might be a comfort thing for you. But if this is what you're using for the first time, then maybe it's something that you enjoy. Right, so this is what I had to do to get that to work, and then I would put in my JSR in my main loop to look up my scroller, and then I'll put this in my routine just before my V-wait here. So that, and that needs to be a JSR. So I'm just gonna, yeah, it doesn't want to change. Oh, I press J on it. Forgetting what I have to do. Press J on it. Right, that should now work. You'll see, hopefully it works. Yeah, so that all works. You can see it's not quite as stable. It's a wee bit more finicky, especially when you press fire. That fire should only happen once, by the way. It shouldn't be holding like that. It should just be a wait for another press, but I've not coded that in. I'll need a flag that basically says wait for there to be nothing, like a fallback to reset the joystick, because it's constantly just reading fire. So I'll need a little flag that just switches the state, which I've done before in a previous video. Where was I then? So what I want to do is just change the sound effect. Another one that I made. It's a bit more obvious. So 6, the push right, change the track, and left to turn it off. And we've got our scroller there. Of course, with the scroller, if you want to make your own message, you do text data, and then you can edit in Notepad, and it should say, it should come up. Yeah, there we go. I've done 2 of them, I think. And then hello world will be the default, and then you can type in this. This is my demo start screen, for example, if you wanted it to be the start of your game. So I'll just save that. It automatically detected a change, so it reloaded it. So I don't have to save it, well, don't have to load it again. And as you can see, it's still using hello world because we need to tell it, or is it, to use an asset. And then it just chooses, I think it goes through which ones. Let me just try another text data. Yeah, it just goes, it cycles through them. I'll turn this into a drop down later, but it's early version again. Everything's like clanky, but works. It's kind of like scrap heap challenge, putting everything together. If it works, good. I'll go back and I'll refine it later and turn it into a proper vehicle, right? You can right click to remove an asset. Just be careful that you're not already using it. So what I'll do is, actually, we know that we're referencing this. If you right click it, I'll give you a warning that it's been referenced. This one says it's been referenced, and this one's not detected yet. I need to write that down. So reference warning and sound effects data. So I know I need to come back to that and sort it. So now with that done, let's just run it. Okay, this is my demo start screen. So I need a space after it, right? It's just going to loop regardless. And in the documentation, which is still being developed, there is instructions that you can do to change color, like underscore COL01. Is it underscore? I think it's underscore. I changed it to, so if I do edit again, I don't know why it takes forever to boot up, but it's already open. It's already open. Right, so I do underscore lowercase COL01, right, and then I can just put a exclamation space there. Right, so that is already white, so that's a bit silly. So let's change it to whatever 8 is, and then let's change it back to white, COL01, and if I save that, those, did I save it? That should have re-imported. Yeah, there's something not right with this. Edit. Let me just copy this out, close that completely, edit in Notepad. Right, there we go. Just be mindful of that, because it was already open or something. Right, and there we go. It's different. Oh yeah, the other thing that was sorted, so you can now export the PRG. So if you wanted to show it or share it to anyone, you can do that. So let me just put it into downloads. I'll overwrite this export test one. Right, and then you can basically go into Vice and then find your downloaded file, and then that works all the same. Alright, so that was broken before. There was a couple of things that weren't supported, some buffers that I sorted. So yeah, everything's good here now. So drag boxes as well, they don't work on the init spine, but they work for moving the org blocks around like this. These purple sections, I was trying to make them go away when you're doing this, but I kind of failed to get it to work right. But these are just sensor areas where it senses the end address of what's to the left of it when you've got proxy on. Right, you can turn it off if you don't want to see it, but it's kind of a no-brainer to have them on anyway. You don't necessarily need to see these, but that's just what it's going to tell you what it's doing. It's detecting what's to the left of it, so that you know that you can code down the way and to the right. The other major thing that was done was you can control drag over nodes, and you can drag out contents. You can control drag copy, right? So if you wanted to copy a whole bunch of stuff and then just change what you wanted, that's all good. Double right click to delete nodes, mouse wheel to zoom out, or page up, page down, or combination if you want to go faster. You can do both. Right, it shows you basically some addresses here, the macros that are used, and then it's sort of an optimized view. It's just, you know, stuff here, right? You can't really see what's there. It's just if you wanted a more optimized bird's eye view, because it was hitting the frame rate, had to do some optimization, especially the one if you press shift, it hits the frame rate more, especially with more nodes. With this many, it's nothing, right? It's just if you're using a lot of single instructions, it really helped that, right? So you can see it's proper cycle counting as well in bigger values. Obviously, if you use a V-weight, this is essentially resetting the cycle count, because you're not really seeing where the raster is anymore. So I'm going to write that down as well. V-weight resets raster, in a sense, where it makes it advanced, right? It makes it wait until the raster line's here, and IRQs as well. It's really hard to keep track of that stuff, and I think that's just a normal thing anyway. As soon as you start using IRQs and stuff, so my way to fix that was to just put in these NOP delays, and it means it just does a chunk of no operations so that you can align, and a lot of that's just trial and error, which I think most people do. I don't know if anyone's cycle counts, but that's why it's in Shift, right? It's not really information you need to see all the time. And yeah, and your drag boxes, hold down space, it will jump to it. So it's really good if you've got massive code. You can imagine if that's like one little section of your code and you've got like a block here or a block there does this, and a block does moves the enemy, updates the something, does the whatever, player routines, updates the score, tests this, does that, picks, checks inventory, it loads up a UI inventory screen, does a end of game high score. Like, you can just have loads and loads of like stuff here. It doesn't really matter. It's all optimized. If it's out of view, it doesn't get rendered. You can find stuff, use your mapping boxes. That's how I envision this, at least, is that it's all going to be very usable and readable, and people that just like coding visually, which is, again, like if you've done text-based coding, you're probably going to want a text-based code, and vice versa. So I come from a background where it's always been mixed. I used to use GameMaker drag and drop code, where it was these little blocks, and that's probably where I've got a little bit of influence. But this was way back in 2004 to 2012 or something. And then I just thought, I'm just going to switch to code, and it's so much easier. And I've used code to make this node-based coding. So, and something I do need to introduce is code blocks. So I'm kind of like always crossing over. I'm trying to always please both sides. Again, this isn't for everyone. I'm not trying to say you no longer need X. You can use this. It's not like that. But what I'm doing is creating a lot of convenience, right? And bringing these macros in, which are, several bytes big, and they solve a problem. And for me, it's just convenience now. Like, I can now make a game. This 2 or 3 months hard work to do this, which has just been such an adrenaline rush for me making this. I enjoy it so much that I'd rather do this than make a game. But I have games that I do want to make as well, so this will be used for that. I'm making something very usable at the end of the day. So there's other things that, again, I'll need to work on documentation fairly soon. There'll be bugs, there'll be problems. Of course, it's only been a couple of months development. Imagine what it's going to be like in another 2 or 3 months. The stuff I would brush up. I spent a good bit of time optimizing it yesterday, as well as finalizing those features with the sound effects. I think everything works now. It's really just down to your coding style and stuff like that. And I'd love for more people to get involved and more support. I think I've passed about $200 worth of buyers into it, which I totally appreciate. I did expect it to be a bit more kind of go crazy, but maybe it's nice that it's not too much too soon. And I'm kind of like aware that if more people start playing with this and finding bugs, then I'll probably be inundated with bug fixes and not really making the development progress. But I think I'm at a point where I'm quite comfortable to be fixing things and seeing all these edge cases that are people try things and they put them in the wrong order. And certain things are only supposed to live in the init spine, like these one-off IRQ based things. So all of this needs to go into documentation, which is kind of, it might change a bit. So I'm reluctant to even release documentation if it's incomplete, or if I find a bug that I need to go and change something, because then I'll need to go and change the documentation as well. So you can see where I'm kind of at with that, and I'm just enjoying this too much. I've got plenty of demos up there now that cover collision, priority, animation, and just what all these things do. A lot of these aren't in the demo version, just half of these or something. But there's enough in the demo version to use, all these features. if there's a feature that I feel would be good in a demo, what I'll do is I'll just take it out of the paid version and put it into the demo, and I will progress the demo version. I just don't want to give too much away compared to people that are supporting me. You know what I mean? I kind of want to reward people that are supporting me and give them, you know, the better deal. And people that are just exploring it, I don't want them to have to pay for something. So the demo is always going to be a kind of like nice little rounded thing, but it won't do everything. I at the same time, I don't want people to ask me how to make a full-blown game with this. It's up to you to learn how all this works. What I'm doing is just creating these shortcuts that help you. I mean, look at all this code that's needed just to get the music to play. And this is older code, right? There's no way you're going to sit and write all these instructions. There's a few other ones, like, you know, this one's still to be populated. Yeah, still to be populated with things, but the sprite one, that's got some information about how it codes it, what it does, and that hopefully that gives you an insight of how code works. 6502 is quite a powerful little operating chip. What do you call it? A nice CPU to play with. It's just great to work on things at a bit, you know, the binary level, and all these little bits and switches is just so cool. I look forward to making stuff with this. It could potentially make a big game, and I need to wrap it up with disc and tape features, which is coming soon. I want to work on autosave. I've done that one. Code blocks and the disc and tape thing potentially next, and then I'm going to work on an editor for the tile set, because I don't want to keep going back and forward to CarPad and, you know, exporting a map, and then, you know, it's just too much back and forward. I want to keep everything sort of contained in here. And then I think I'll do a bit of a UI overhaul at some point as well. Just all of this, you know, the text and stuff is nice, but it's just all placeholder things. It's just like, you know, programmer layout, and once these are completely finalized, they can look more dressed up. And every single line of text is a draw call. Like, I'm having to draw all this text, so I could reduce that. Instead of like draw text plus, you know, this and that, the other, I just have a graphic that's already baked all that information. It could look nicer as well, and it just means that it will perform a slight bit better. Already performs good. I've stress tested it with really big files, such as like this one. Don't you just love it when you're streaming and something breaks? So now I need to look into that. This happens every single time I go to stream or do a video. So that's just a pity there. I think something's obviously changed, which has made this no longer compatible, right? Anyway, it loaded that one, right? But like, check this out. So now this is more readable, right? It's much more readable than it was when it's just all this little bitty text. So now when you scroll out, you can see the instructions and the macros that are used, and you can see, if you scroll out more, I can see the comments, right? But all the comments are doing, which is great, right? So I know exactly where everything is. For some reason, there's duplicates here, I noticed. Yeah. Yeah, just that one. But you can see that's all good. And then if you wanted to organize this, you would press O to do an org block, and control drag a whole bunch of things. And you can put that there, put that in there, whatever you want to do with that to organize it more. Alright. And so on and so forth. Last time I did that, it broke. like a lot of things were condensing up. Let me just test that still works. Should still work. Yep. So that's one made by Analog64, who's been very involved in the Discord, and it's been great. I love that kind of support. But there you can see, you can start to organize this and put it in an org block, shift it to the right, and they'll just all kind of read off each other. So you're just like taking this big long snake and just like chunking it, chunk until it's more compact, and then you would put your mapping box around it. And it doesn't really matter. It's just continuous code. It just reads down and then up and then down and up across the way. So you can condense all your code into an X and Y instead of just down the way, and then you can organize that with your blocks, which is similar to having, you know, in a text-based one, like different scripts or whatever, or different different scripts. So yeah, so if I was away up here, for example, like, oh, where's that bit of code that does such and such? So let me just put a block around that. So just B, and then change that to green. I'll call it start, right? Start or init, right? And I was like, oh, where's that bit of code that I did such and such? Then I just go, boom, I'm there, right? Instead of trying to look through, well, where's that, you know, a list of all your scripts. I mean, this is that list, right? Essentially, just hold space, and you can jump between them. So I'm adding a lot of convenience to this, and if you did want to move these around, you can do that as well, right? It contains any of the org blocks. You can't move the init stuff around, right? Nothing in it will move. You just move this little header here. And of course, you can put a comment in and say, you know, start of the game. Right, just pop that there, and as you zoom out, you can see your comment clearly. What I might even do is fade these nodes out as well, just so you just see the blocks. That would be kind of cool. I'm going to add that next actually. Fade nodes at distance, because they're kind of useless like that. Right, they only start to make sense when you start to see the text. So even when you zoom out like there, I'm just going to make them fade out, and that way you'll just see the org blocks in the comments, and then we don't have to see all that. That would be cool, and it would be much more kind of macro scale management, because you'd expect that, like, your game could end up being pretty big, right? And especially if you've got like other data coming in from, if we start to organize it with discs and tapes, I'll need to have blocks that are like a loader section, load 1, load 2, load 3, and those won't be executed with it like a PRG file. They'll just be contained in a disk image as sequential files or whatever that need to be loaded in, or in a tape format, like they're at a position in the tape, which would be so cool. I can't wait to like simulate stuff like that if it works in theory, because in Vice you can emulate disk and tape. So in theory, if it works there, it should work in a physical format. And yeah, I think this is going to be a useful tool. I don't know, it's a bit like shoot 'em up construction kit times a million, right? It's like you can do everything in it, everything you want. I'm trying to create convenience obviously with these macros, but just now the scroll only scrolls in one direction. The camera pans to the right, so the scroll goes left, right? So you can only move to the right. With that, you advance it with the GSR as well, so you can sort of choose how much it moves. I've yet to do left, I've yet to do up and down. So these are other things that I'll bring in for convenience. But I'm hoping when I bring in a code block that people can share their code blocks with me, and then I can make macros up. Code blocks are kind of essentially custom macros. I don't want to fill this with loads of user macros. I think I can only fit another 3 or 4 of these before I'm kind of content with that. I don't want it to be a mess with lists and lists of macros, although it'd be nice. But I think code blocks would be the way forward with that. Just something that just does a thing and you plug into it. that's way advanced. That's further down the line, another 6 to 8 months before I get that far, but I'll make a start on it. Try to think if there's anything else. Hope you like the new UI. I tried to make it look very Commodore-ish as much as possible. What else? Reset view, address, blah blah blah, comments. Oh yeah, hex and decimal mode. If you've ever been curious that that's actually works, I think you press X as well. Yep. X is to switch between those. Of course, you can still type in whatever you want. You can type in I thought you could, yeah, type in 64. That'll become 40 like that. Same if you do that, you know, it's just gonna work. I thought if you did 40 it would come up as 64. Oh yeah, you're in decimal. Anyway, I'm confusing myself here. These are just like loads of features I added early on that I've not really tapped on for a while. Build and run, toggle comments, yeah, that all still works. So if you're zoomed out, I think that should, yeah, that should still work. So I'm gonna go and do some gardening work for today. So it's springtime, I need to go and work on my allotment, and that's going to be my exercise, and then go and get lunch, and then I'm going to come back and do a few little things, auto saving and the fading out of the nodes at a distance, just so we see the blocks themselves would be cool, and maybe the macros or something. Yeah, what else? Yeah, everything else is just going to be fall into various tutorials, and it'll be more like when I start making a game with this. Because what I'll do then is I'll do a video of me making something in the game, or something that I made, and I'll explain it. Or if I'm doing it there and then, I'll likely run into problems and stop the video, fix the problem, and do a video again. So yeah, I think I'd rather show you something that's working and then explain how it works, as opposed to getting all tangled up. I've got loads of blooper videos, in other words, like so many videos where I've just not got anything right. Let me see if I can find how many videos that I end up producing, like just tons and tons of these videos, and then deleting some and everything. So they don't all make it up to YouTube. I run into problems quite a lot. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. I hope it's a useful tool. I hope more people get on board now. Maybe more experienced people that have used assembly, I'd prefer. I don't want to handhold anyone into how to make a game with this. That's not really my goal. My goal is just to give people another tool that kind of know what they're doing, right? You kind of know how to make a game for Commodore. You kind of know a bit of BASIC. You kind of know what a Commodore 64 is and the limitations of it and how everything works. The more you know, the better. And I'm hoping that my videos that I've shown so far, if you watch all of them, they should prime you into how things work. And I hope to do more of that. I made all of this tool on a whim that I could get machine code to work through Game Maker without really knowing machine code. All I did was just write all the instructions in for whatever they do. I just made sure that they had that capacity to do what they're supposed to do, then compile into a PRG file, then be able to run in Vice. Those are the fundamental things that I created at the start. But I do not know how to code in machine code that much to save myself, right? So that's why these macros were created. They were things that worked that I found online, that I turned into instructions, that I tried and tested day after day until they worked, and just trying things and breaking things and realizing what I'd done wrong, and I'm learning through mistake. I now know certain things. I know how to draw a character on screen. You load a value into the accumulator, which is your character, and you store it at 0400 in hex, which is top left. I know how to change the background color. It's the same as used to poke 53280, but that in hex is DO20 and DO21. I now know what they do, and I'm learning through the immersion side of it, of me trying to make stuff to make it easier for you guys. But at the same time, I'm bridging a gap in the knowledge making this, and at the same time I expect you guys to be able to bridge the gap as well. So you need to look at all the documentation and stuff like that and try to follow my tutorials as much as possible, because if you just skim through them expecting an easy life, making games is hard in any case. You're always going to have problems. I use Game Maker to make games. I use Game Maker to make tools. It's never disappointed me. It's very powerful, and I've used it for 25 years now, and I'll keep using it. And that's really it for this video. Hopefully the next update is some cool new stuff that I've got in there. Hopefully more people are joining the Discord where I can talk about it a bit more, and more people are making things where I can fix bugs and introduce new features. That's it for this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye for now.